You've been through all these preseasons, all these years, and I was just talking about Hard Knocks, and all I can think of when I watch it, Andy, is when you go to bed at night, are you just crossing your fingers that players don't get hurt over the next 3 weeks?
Well, that is a definite factor, and it's a concern. Now, we're also one of the few teams that still tackles to the ground, which most people don't do. And we've been able to keep the injuries down, knock on wood, which is pretty amazing in itself there.
Why do you do that, Andy?
Well, I still believe that the game's blocking and tackling, and that's probably the offensive line part of me still left in me. That right. You've got to tackle. Tackling in the NFL right now isn't very good. That's not one of the phases of the game that people are doing well. So we try to work on that, and I also think that it helps the players when they know they're going to have contact to protect themselves.
You know, you were an offensive tackle, and you've been known as a quarterback and an offensive line builder. Players play their best under you in those positions. And I would argue since the new CBA, offensive line play has largely eroded. That's what my eyes tell me. Give me the state of offensive lines as a former offensive lineman you see.
Yeah, well, maybe the toughest thing to do is to teach them just to get in a stance and to be able to come out of a stance. So most of the kids that are coming from the college level don't use the 3-point stance. They use a 2-point stance. And at this level, you've got to be able to drop your hand down there in the run game in particular and root people out. And so that becomes an issue. I think they're better pass blockers now than what they were, though, back a few years back. So that part's a plus. But you don't have a lot of time with these kids, and in particular that position, the offensive defensive line. So you've got to have a great teacher at both of those two positions, and then you got to maximize your time when you do have the pads on.
Andy, we've also seen just an incredible number of quarterback busts, young kids coming into the league. If I told you, Andy, there's no media, there's no pressure, that you can select the time in which you draft a quarterback and he eventually starts. There's no media, no loudmouths like me. There's no pressure from the owner. Ideally, when would you start a quarterback out of college?
Well, I would give him a year. I did that with Donovan. I kind of brought him along through that first year, and then the last couple games, we weren't very good. I mean, we won 5 games our first year, so those last couple games gave him an opportunity to get in there and start. And I was lucky enough to bring Doug Peterson with me, and as a quarterback at that time, and it was good to have him take all the blows in Philadelphia for Donovan, and then also help Donovan, teach him. It's the blitz game that those kids need to work on, and then knowing how to take their drop versus all those different looks.
Tell me about the blitz game. Teach my audience something here. When you talk about the blitz game, why don't you see it in college, and why do you see it in the NFL?
Well, you're seeing it more and more every year from the college. You take somebody like Kyle Whittingham, who you had on yesterday. I mean, he's one of those guys. He's got that creative mind, and they're bringing it. But with all the spread that people are doing, it's a little risky. Corners are hard to find, good corners at any level, and then you've got this huge field that you're working on at the college level. You take that wide side of the field, the hash marks are different, and it's there's quite a bit of distance there that they've got to work with. So it's a little bit different game than what you see in the pro level. Quality of corners, so that's what I'd tell you. We have 32 teams; they have 100 and whatever number of teams at Division I level, and that position gets a bit diluted.
Andy Reid, coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us. He's been coach of the year. He went to 4 straight NFC title games. He's been to a Super Bowl. You know, Andy, there's Nick Saban always talks about an outer scoreboard and an inner scoreboard, and Nick will say, "Listen, we played like dog meat, and we know that." In our practices, we know we played poorly, but we won. For you, explain a little inner-outer scoreboard. What is something you're really proud of, perhaps, that we never talk about? That's something that football coaches take a great deal of pride in that we don't talk about on Monday on our radio shows.
Yeah, I think it's the adjustments that the players make. So they've got the keys to the car once they're on the field. You're a spectator, and so there are moments there where they've got to make an adjustment. And you spend all week giving them little indicators in which to do that with. And many times they'll miss them. I mean, it's part of the game. Things are happening fast. But you get that group that team or the group that can communicate and get everybody kind of dancing the same dance. That's a beautiful thing. People don't see that.
Yeah. Also sometimes I used to defend you in Philadelphia. People would say, oh, Andy's play calling. And I'd say, you don't know about injuries. You don't know if Donovan's audibling. How often? Alex Smith is a veteran quarterback for you. He's going to audible sometimes out of what you call. When you call a play, how often is that play run exactly the way you wanted?
Yeah, well, one of Alex's real strengths is that he's great at the line of scrimmage, and he's highly, highly intelligent. I mean, highly intelligent. He's one of the smarter guys in the National Football League, and so I would put him up against people in the aptitude. You're not going to run out of gigabytes with Alex Smith, So you utilize that. That's his strength. So I give him the keys to the car when he's at the line of scrimmage, and he gets us in and out of stuff all the time, and really every play he has an option to go to something else, and he's tremendous at it.
Yeah, that's what young quarterbacks, that's what the young quarterbacks I don't think feel as comfortable. I was looking at stats this morning. Cam Newton popped really in his fifth year. Russell Wilson popped in his fourth year. Big Ben in his fourth year. And I think a lot of that is that aptitude at the line of scrimmage. I mean, it's just, give me a typical play just for our audience to have fun. And don't tell me what the play means, but give me some of the language for a single play for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, boy. Well, I can give you one. Pass 94 back, X circle stop, West zoom, F short, seal.
That's one play?
That's one play.
That sounds like a bomberooski to me. You're going deep.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Yeah. That was...
Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of that right there.
Andy Reid joining us. Okay, you got a star safety, Eric Berry, and he's new contract holding out. This is tough for you. He's a great player. You're a head coach. You like him. You need him. His agent's driving you crazy. How difficult is that to deal with?
Yeah, listen, I've got a simple thing there. So I want the players to make money. I mean, this is a rough business now, and normally short careers for these guys. So whenever they're playing, I want them to make money. On the other hand, you've got to balance it. You've got this cap thing that you got to work with, and so you want to do what's best for the team and the player. So that these guys, I mean, they're busting their tail for you. So, and this guy that you're talking about is phenomenal. He's a great person and a great player. So I want him to make as much money as he can. But on the other hand, you have these capologists, and they've got to make sure they balance it, and it's normally on a 3-year scale. So you can't have everybody be the highest paid player. You can't have that. You've got to kind of work that out and make sure that there's a balance there, and you're taking care of that side of it.
Andy Reid, Kansas City Chiefs head coach. I've been telling Cowboy fans, can you slow down on Dak Prescott? You got a great quarterback. You don't take too much vanilla schemes. Magicians and head coaches don't give away their tricks in the preseason. So what can I take away watching a preseason game? As a media guy or a fan, what is something I can watch Andy in the preseason and go, okay, that sticks. That matters. Yeah,
well, you see the execution, and take Dax. I don't even know if I can talk about other players, but I'm saying that I like what he's doing. You compare these players. That's what you do. You look and that's what fans do. They go, wow, that guy's really moving the ball, making his team have an opportunity to score touchdowns. And is this quarterback doing that, or is that quarterback doing that? And they do a comparison there. So I'd say for a young kid that he's doing a nice job. I drafted Cox at the Eagles the year that I ended up leaving, or the year after I was excused. I didn't leave. They excused me, right?
Yes. Right.
So it was like a little kid going to the bathroom. I got to raise my hand, and they kicked me out the door. So, but Cox told me, he says, you wait and see this quarterback that we have coming up here, man. This guy's going to be something, and here he is. I mean, here this kid is, and they're just doing a heck of a job, and he's really just building a foundation. Things are simple right now, so we're not throwing out our best stuff at people. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to give the young kids an opportunity to execute so we can evaluate them as players, so they're not doing so much thinking. They're doing more playing and reacting. And right now, that kid's doing a nice job with it, and I think he's building a nice foundation for himself.
Boy, listen, Cowboy fans are going to be all over me today. You just made my day miserable because I keep telling those Cowboy fans he's not even seeing exotic blitzes from all these coaches yet.
Yeah, it's very vanilla. It's very vanilla, but whatever's thrown at you, if you're doing okay with it, that's okay. Now, he's young. They've got a great quarterback. You know, Tony Romo probably didn't get enough credit for what he does. I mean, the kid's phenomenal, and he's a great kid, and so they're in good hands. As long as he's healthy, they're good. But how about having a young guy behind him that's productive? I mean, that's a beautiful thing that you can raise him in your system, and he'll get the blitzes down the road here, and we'll see how he handles that.
Andy Reid. Well, I like that you knew that I had Kyle Whittingham on yesterday. Are you listening to my podcast or something?
Well, you know, you're the best in the business, man. I mean, I got to listen, right?
Oh, well, I like to hear that. I like to hear that. Andy Reid, good luck to you. Love having you on. Anything you ever want to talk about, you know where to land. We appreciate it, man.
All right, Colin. Appreciate you, man.
Oh, Cowboy fans. That little nugget from Andy Reid on Dak Prescott, I mean, you're just going to hold on to that forever. Jim Harbaugh lost another recruit. 3 in a week. Man overboard.